All right, welcome to the Larson Life Group Huddle. Those of you especially tuning into the replay, my name is Jim Larson. I'm a senior vice president here at Symmetry Financial Group. I've been here for about 3 years, direct to the company by way of Jamie Susie and Corey Neighbor, Sarah and Jared Reinecke, Jacob Pogue, and the Marshall Wayland hierarchy. I am so excited to introduce to you a friend of mine, a freaking rock star. I'm gonna pull her up here, spotlight her,
Mm.
the
And I hate
join.
this part. I hate
I
it.
know it's always worse when it's like they bring you up first and you're just hanging out by yourself.
Yeah, it's just me, guys. Just me here.
Yeah.
Fine, fine.
All right. So guys, you should probably know Kelly because we do a lot with Kelly in Jamie's organization. But Kelly is not just a top producer. She's not just an elite producer. She's not just the fastest to the top of the company in the company's history. Um, she's someone that, gosh, is just going to inspire and impress you in an incredible way. I've had a front row seat to her journey since I think she joined, I don't know, like a week after I did. And we really kind of came up together. Kelly's direct to me, but I was brand new. I take zero credit in helping Kelly get her feet on the ground because I didn't have my feet on the ground. So we both were kind of just babies that went to Jamie and were like, Jamie, whatever you tell us to do, we're gonna do. And so we kind of figured this thing out side by side. We ran up together, we came up together, and I really had a front row seat to watching Kelly figure this out. And if you guys have ever had a front row seat and come in at the same time as someone and watched your story alongside theirs, man, I struggled with everything and I felt like Kelly didn't have a learning curve. And you'll learn that that wasn't true, but it was so inspiring to watch the way that she took every obstacle and she got curious. She turned every challenge into how can she win? She literally is the embodiment of not letting excuses control her business. And I can't wait for you guys who see her in a leadership capacity in a lot of ways. I can't wait for you to just meet her in a real kind of just stripped down human way. So, Kelly, welcome to our call.
Hi. It's a little late. So I poured myself a glass of wine. I don't know if that's acceptable this late at night, but I even had to like redo my braid. Like I should be in bed by
I
now.
know, I know. I give myself this one evening where I push through in a week. I know you're on some threads talking about Red Bull at like 4 p.m. to kind of
I
power
did.
through here. Did you do
I
it?
went at 3:40. I was like, I got 20 more minutes of a nanny, and that's enough time to go to Starbucks and come back. And I went and got a quad. So I'm good. We're
I
good.
love it. Kel,
It's
I can't wait for you here just to kind of unpack your story, and I'm going to take you back to the very beginning. So just kind of share with us what was it about where you were at in life that you were looking for something more, and then with everything you could have done, why did you end up here?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell the full story because I know a lot of you have never met me before. So hello, I am Kelly Bush. I am direct to symmetry by way of Jim. And like Jim said, we started here at the same time, and I always joke that I crawled up Jamie's uterus and I swaddled myself there, and I told her that she was never allowed to let birth me. Like so, to this day, I remain swaddled up in there. That's where I will remain. But before I came here, I was an ICU nurse. I had been an ICU nurse for 10 years. And besides that, I was also currently still am a military spouse. My husband has been in the Navy for 19 years. He officially gets to retire in one more year. We have the official orders September 1st. He will be retired from the United States Navy, and we will move one last time. But when I came here, we were on, I think at that time, we had just moved for the eighth time. I had two kids. They were 4 and 2 at the time. Um, I I think I think I was already pregnant before I made the decision to study. And my husband, I knew, had an upcoming deployment. And during that time, now I'm developed enough to be okay with saying it out loud. But I was on the struggle bus, Jim. Like every day felt like Groundhog Day for me. Every day was just another day. I was never the type of person that was meant to be a stay-at-home mom. That doesn't fill my cup. I'm not one of those people that wakes up and that's just it's not me. It's not me. So being a stay-at-home mom and feeling like I had no choice in the matter was really hard for me to swallow. Like I did not like that feeling of I'm choosing this life. It was more of you don't have an option. This is what you're going to do. And Kelly struggles with control. I like control, so that feeling was not good for me. So I was really struggling. I was in a kind of a dark place, and I remember looking up job postings for nursing. I remember looking up per diem shifts, and I was like, how can I work a shift with a husband that's never here? I always say that he is dependably the most undependable man that there ever was, because even in the Navy, if he's not on a deployment, he's still on a warship. If you guys don't know, warships can't be left unattended, right? So, like every fourth or fifth night, he'd have to spend the night on the ship. And then think about it if you're doing training for the Navy. The boat has to go away if you're going to go do a simple training. And a simple training is going to be, week, 2 weeks, a month, who knows how long it's going to be. He's supposed to be home, and then all of a sudden I'd get an email saying, I'm not coming home, don't know when I'm coming home. And then 3 months later, he'd be home. So he wasn't dependable to count on. And I was sitting there like, well, how can I still go work shifts? Like, I'm not happy. I want to go work. How can I go work shifts? How can I make this work? And I'm like, okay, well, let's say I hire a nanny to take care of my kids. Well, it's not a 12-hour shift. It's going to be 14 hours. Surely I can find somebody to work 14 hours, 15, maybe 3 days a week. That's probably going to cost me about $30 an hour. That's what I pay my nanny now. That's how expensive they are to watch 2 to 3 little children. And the most I ever made as a nurse was $34 an hour. So I was sitting in a place where $4 an hour was worth it to me to go do something else besides take care of my kids. That's where I was. And if you've ever had mom guilt, dad guilt, whatever, like try swallowing that pill that you're like, that's cool, kids. I'm $4. That sounds great. And if you are a nurse or have been a nurse, what I do to go earn that $4 an hour, like we clean up a lot of things being a nurse, but that was more worth it to me than staying at home, which then put me in an even worse spot mentally of like, man, this is not where I want to be. This isn't working. And then Christina Watts called me and she said, hey, I know somebody named Jamie, and I don't really know what she does, but I know that she makes a bunch of money working at home, and I think you should give her a call. So I don't call, of course, because Kelly doesn't call. I send Jamie, this person I don't know, a text, and I say, hey, like my friend Christina says you make a lot of money working from home. I would like to know more. Like imagine that that's the text message you get in your phone if you guys are recruiting, and you're like, oh, okay, this is great. This is just I'll take it. I don't even think Christina connected us in a three-way or anything. It was just, I just took her number and I just texted her.
That's awesome.
And Jamie's like, yeah, I do. I make a lot of money at home. Here's a corporate overview. Give it a watch. And I watched it. And I think I kind of like bitterly watched it because I was like, I'm just in. Like you tell me I can make money working from home, like making phone calls. Like I don't need to watch this. Like
I mean, you were gonna
I
do $4 an hour doing
yeah, I
gross
was
things
like,
at the hospital. So like
I was in. Like I would like bitterly watch the corporate overview because I was like, I'll watch the whole thing in case she asks me questions, but like, do I have to watch this corporate? Like I'm in. Like just tell me what to go do. And then I did like a quick call with Jamie and I think asked silly questions about what life looks like. And then I was in. And my goal was $5,000 a month. And I could probably scroll back to the text message that I said, if I make $5,000 a month, I will be over the moon ecstatic. That was my goal because that
what's
would be more than I would ever make as a nurse, right? Like the most I ever made as a nurse was like 3,600 take home. And then it would be plus a little bit extra for me. I was like, I'll be ecstatic.
what's the most you ever made here in a month?
Gross was December of last year, and I think I had 54,000 in deposits.
in a single month.
Gross, gross. So I mean,
Sure.
take out some lead money,
Lead spend and other items. Yeah.
admin, nanny, right? But that's still a lot more than I ever made in
No,
a
yeah,
month of nursing.
it's pretty sweet. All right, so go to those days. You are desperate to work, to have a purpose, to have a goal. So, this Jamie girl you don't even know gets you signed up, you get through the course, you get your license. Then it's get leads, call leads, set appointments. Walk us through what that was like.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what instilled it in me from the very beginning, except while I was studying, Jamie knew my language was money. She knew that that was my goal because I had already vocalized that that's what was going to fuel me. So she would send me pictures of her deposits in a day of what that looked like for her, and I remember just being like, well, I would like that. Like, I would very much like to make that much money in one day. So going through the process already, like instilled of this is what's possible here. I got opt credentials on January 15th. And back then, in order to get SBLI, you had to submit 3 apps. So I got hired, got my opt credentials, and Jamie just says, you need this. It takes 3 apps to get this carrier. Go do that. And I was like, okay, like I don't, Jamie said, go do this. She said 3 apps and I need this. Like, I will figure out how to go get it done. She sent me a video of like an accidental death policy. And I didn't even know at the time, like, can I do 2 policies on myself? Which you can't, but I still did it. Like, I don't know. She said 3 apps. I don't know. I'm just gonna go, here's one on Jake, here's one on me. Sure, I'll do a second one on me. Okay, we're done. And that was like day one. And I just remembered that like I was like, I want what Jamie has, what she's doing. So I will be coachable. Like I said, I swaddled myself up there and I've never come out and I have just been the most coachable person. It was never a question of it's always that weird saying of like jump, ask how high. Mine's more like was that jump, was that enough? Was that the jump that you wanted me to do? Oh, it was that bridge? Okay, I'll be right back. I'll go over there instead. And
How
I remember starting and the leaderboards fueled me because it made sense to me that there was no difference, that these people were dialing the same exact leads, they had the same exact resources, there was nothing different. And I just remember in my brain being like, there's no reason why I can't go do that. They're doing that. They have this APV. They're calling the same leads. They're using the same things. Like there's no reason why I can't go do that. And that just fueled me to go figure it out. And I remember my very first dial session, I went up to my bedroom and tucked myself away. I had 2 weeks before Jake was leaving on an 8-month deployment, and I was pregnant. So I was like, okay, I have 2 weeks to use him as a resource. And I remember going upstairs, sitting on my bedroom floor and dialing, and I booked 4 appointments. Jamie's in Cabo on an incentive trip. So she wasn't, I remember texting her and being like, I have 4 appointments. And she goes, great, I'm having a margarita. I was like, okay, here we are. And I remember that feeling of red rage. Not at Jamie. It was a red rage of I didn't like not knowing what to do. Hated that feeling. And it brought me back to, I mean, I had been an ICU nurse for 10 years. I was very good at what I did. I just knew things because you knew things. And it brought me back to like flashbacks of being a new grad. And I hated that feeling. I hated not knowing. I hated being like people like, of course you go to Forrester's for vape. Of course you would go there. And I hated that feeling. And I'm like, okay, well, there's only one way to figure this thing out to stop being uncomfortable. I was like, go get it done, go figure it out. So I just knew that more dials, more appointments, and reading underwriting guides was going to get me from A to B because I was not going to use my mentor's time to ask the little questions.
I want to zoom in on that in a second, Kel. You said something that, man, I don't see very often, and I don't think you see it that often too, but when you're brand new, you're looking at leaderboards and you saw parallels. You saw yourself in those people. You determined that they're the same as me. They've got the same resources as me, that like we're all the same. If they can do it, why can't I? What do you think? hold so many people back from not adopting that? Because I see so many people always make the assumption that the people on leaderboards are somehow doing something different or have something different, or they at least don't see themselves getting there, but you somehow adopted that early. What do you think that line is?
Mm. I my instinct, my gut reaction, and I may wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and be like, man, I wish I had answered this question in a completely different way. And it'll haunt me later. I think my gut response to that is I knew that I had the work ethic. And I think people that second guess themselves on that leaderboard are just selling themselves short that they can go get it done. Like they're already counting themselves out before the race has even started. They're already saying that they're not going to go finish the marathon. And I just knew that I may not be as good as Grant Lieber, or I may not be as good as Ashton De Longo Lunde. But I knew that like I was Rudy. Like put me in, coach. Like tell me what to go do and I will go do it. And I knew that I could go outwork somebody. Like I just that was in me. Like I will go figure there's no reason that I can't figure this out. That it's just time and energy into this business. Like there's no reason why I can't go figure this out. And I'm just gonna go do it. And it was very much already to this day. Like, I mean, I see like Amber puts really nice things and she's like, she's the legend, she's the GOAT. God, there are so many people way better than me, way better. But I can tell you, I can probably outwork a lot of them. Like, I mean, I will go, like, there are way people way more skilled than me in sales. Sales is still something, I mean, I've only been here almost 3 years. There's people that have been here for 12 years that are way better, but I will go outwork to go get whatever I need to go get done. I'll figure it
And
out.
And that was so evident up front in what you were heading into with you didn't want to bother Jamie with stuff like you felt like you should know, and you really just became a student of this thing. Like in a way, you became obsessed. You were going to figure this thing out. Walk us through what that commitment to learning looked like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I became obsessed with this business. I am still obsessed with this business. And I think if you're on this call and you're not obsessed with it, that's fine, right? But adjust your expectations then. Like adjust it. If you can go days without thinking about this business, if you can go a day, if I could go an hour without thinking about this business, I mean, adjust your expectations, right? If you can't see the vision of what's possible for you here, for your family here, then adjust, and that's fine, right? You not everybody needs to be Jim, not everybody needs to be me, not everyone needs to be Jamie. Like if you're here for a simple $1,000 a month, that's fine. Let your mentor know that that's your goal and don't go putting, 15,000 APV as your goal for the month because that's not really what you're here for. You're really here just for $1,000 and adjust your expectations. But man, I became obsessed with it because once I figured out that my work ethic equals how much money I make. So the harder I work, the more money I make, the more money I make, the happier I am here. Like it was a snowball spiral that I was like, I'm in. Like the harder
Yeah.
I work, the more money I make, the more money I make, I can do X, Y, and Z for my family. That fills my cup, right? My cup was super depleted. It was empty, and I needed a way to fill to pour into others. And Pogue always says it best for me of like, you don't have to love money, but you can sure love what money does for you. Um, and that's where I was, right? Like we were financially fine, but I couldn't go do the extra stuff that I wanted to go do. So now I'm able to pour willingly, or willingly is not the answer. I don't know what that word is, like flowingly. I don't know what word
Sure.
I'm going for. Sure, we'll just go. But I just became obsessed with this business, of figuring it out. And I don't know how I knew back then, so use my knowledge now. But I knew Jamie had limited time, right? I needed to earn time into her day. I needed to be able to be worth her answering me quickly. And she's not going to answer quickly if it's messages. Like, I wanted her to be like, oh, Kelly's messaging me. She must need something. She must be in an app. It must be like, it's not just a like, is the sky blue today? You know, it was Kelly's messaging me like, I'm going to respond quickly. She needs something, not a, oh, I see Kelly's message. Let her go figure it out. Right. And I knew that I wanted Jamie's time of how can I go and build this thing bigger, and how can I have what she has. And I knew that that wasn't going to be the simple things that I could go figure out myself or use other people to help me figure that out, right? Like association is one of our key cornerstones. Like I wasn't afraid to see people on the leaderboards and be like, what's your lead spin? What are you doing? What leads are you doing? Hey, like, how do you overcome that objection? Or just loving on people from the very beginning of like, hey, Grant, you were great on that call. Thank you. Have a great day. You know, just like loving on people. So that way I wasn't afraid to go ask them questions later. Um, and I just knew that I needed to understand the black and white of this business because that's what like underwriting and calling is just black and white. This is the answer, yes or no. Call the insurance carrier, look up the underwriting guidelines, and I could use Jamie to help me in the gray areas, which is what I needed the most help with.
Yeah, I want to give people some perspective. I use your numbers in our new agent call, which I just came off of, and just your year one numbers. In 1 year, and it's cool because she joined in January, right? So we get to look at just that 1 year. Kelly wrote 242 applications for 264,000 in premium in 1 year. And she's not coming from an insurance background. She's not coming from a sales background. Like that's what she did. She hit agency owner in 7 months. Actually, an agency director, I think that year also, right? Year one.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So,
in
I
January,
mean,
I think it was like January, so within the year, yeah,
within 12 full months. So
yeah.
like this obsession wasn't just a she got lost in the learning and the learning and the learning, like it was always put into practice. What did dialing look like for you when you were new? Did you set like a minimum number of dials? Was it a dial until what were you using in your mind as like metrics or like here's what I need to get done to feel like I'm making progress?
Mine was very much a time. I was alone with a 4 and a 2 year old, and I see a question in the chat. I didn't have childcare to start with. That wasn't a thing for me. So my metric was it is nap time, and I'm gonna sit my butt down and I'm gonna dial until those kiddos get up, and that was gonna be my answer, right? Like I had no choice but to use my time to its max capacity. For me, having no kids around was the best time to dial. I figured out quickly that I could run appointments and like set them up with a craft or an activity quickly to be on an appointment, but I would be much quicker and much more efficient if I used screen time or a nap time to get dial sessions done. But I would say time blocking was my biggest metric because I had no choice, right? Like I could have set this arbitrary like 300 dials is the metric that I need to make, but then I would have been really frustrated with myself when just my life at that time didn't allocate that. And instead it was I'm going to do the things that I say I'm going to do of when kids go to nap, I'm gonna dial. When kids and then I'm gonna use screen time at these times. When they go for screen time, I will dial and just promising myself that I will use that time to its max capacity. But then slowly that transitioned into more um metrics once the business started going. But at first, it was just sacrificing any minute of this business to be obsessed. Like if I had 20 minutes of a show that they could watch, then I was going to go dial for 20 minutes. Or if they were napping, it was going to be I'm going to set everything up, go put them down for a nap, and then I'm going to run down to the kitchen counter and dial as much as I possibly could during that time. Um,
What
and that was my
I
metrics to start with.
I kind of titled this call No Excuses, and you've embodied that in so many different ways. But one of those things I think is so common to human nature is how we'll tell ourselves we're going to do something ahead of time. But then the moment comes and we're just not really feeling it, right? Like, I think it would be so easy for you in that season to have said, okay, I'm going to leverage nap time. And then you finally get the kids down. And you know what? You're tired too. And this would be a really good time for you to take a nap. But during that whole season, you simply just did what you said you were going to do. Like, you moved across the country and you didn't miss a beat. Like walk us through that level of grit to do what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it, even in the times you probably didn't feel like doing what you said you were going to do.
I remember I remember the one time that I really didn't want to do what I said I was going to do. I was like 8 months pregnant and I had a hernia. And at the end of the day, my hernia and being pregnant, like 10 out of 10 in pain. I remember I had just gotten the kids to bed. I had just gotten to bed. I just went downstairs, kind of closed up shop, started waddling my butt up the stairs, and my alarm goes off. Which my alarm goes off, that means I have an appointment. And I was like halfway up the stairs, and I still remember being like, oh, and I remember being like, it was that split second, just like in the morning when your alarm goes off, right, to go to the gym or not to go to the gym. And I was like, that split second of like, nope, I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna go do it because I knew that I would feel better knowing that I had ran that appointment versus like I could have just gone up the stairs and climbed into bed and watched that TV show. But that whole time watching that TV show, I would have felt, I'm gonna use language, I would have felt like a piece of shit watching that TV show because I didn't do the things I wanted to said I was gonna do, right? And I think I learned how my brain worked pretty quickly, just in life in general, that I was miserable right before coming here. Like that wasn't the life that I had envisioned or planned. I didn't like that I didn't have control out of it. So here was an escape out of that. So why not go take it by doing the things that I need to do and say I'm going to do. So my choice is to be miserable, continue being miserable, or even worse, feeling bad because I have the option, but I'm choosing not to take that option to get out of it. So, like, I'm in a worse spot than if I just go do what I said I was going to do, then, like, I have the choice to keep improving, rising, and getting out of the situation.
That's one of the things that I've had the conversation with people several times, but I don't think they think through very often is when you're in this business and you're in the learning curve and the learning curve is hard and you're struggling and it's so easy to get to a place where you stop believing your effort's going to pay off. And we know that most people quit this business. That's true. I actually did quit this business. And I think so often we get to that place where like, oh, I'm going to quit. This isn't working. But quitting, what problem does that solve? Like, you're at the problem where you're having trouble figuring out how to overcome this obstacle. Quitting doesn't solve that problem. It just sends you right back to where you were unhappy that you joined this in the first place. So what did you solve by quitting? Like, I
You
don't,
came here for you came here for a reason. There's
right.
no one like you've said it on calls before. No no one's sitting there going, I'm bored. Like what should I go do? Like I guess I'll go get my insurance license. Like there's a reason why everyone is here. There's a reason why you're choosing to tune into this call at 8 o'clock at night or 5 o'clock during dinner time on the Pacific Coast. There's a reason why you're on this call. Be honest with yourself. Be truthful with yourself and figure out what you're willing to go do to go get that done. Right? Like, I mean, my truth is I want more for my family. I want more things here and I know that I need my cup filled. My truth here is that like I will do anything to ride horses. I'm not quite there yet because my kids are 6, 4, and 2 and just logistically that's not a thing that you can do with 6, 4, and 2 and run a business and have a nanny and admin, but we're getting there. And then that day will come where all of the kids can ride horses and we just, have this nice snowball machine going that's just working its way. I get to be like Jacob Pogue that, hops on calls and gets to do coaching calls. I'm not there yet, but I will one day. Like I'm truthful with myself that I know that that's what I want in life.
What do you think's the most surprising thing that you learned here?
Oh man, surprising thing that oh, there's mentally more to Kelly than there was back then. Like there's more layers to my onion, right? There's more, I'm a better person than I was when I started. I'm a better friend, a better mom, better wife for sure. Like my level of communication with my kids and my husband is so exponentially better. Like I'm able to sit on the couch and have a conversation and say, "Tell me more about that." Just like I would a lead of like, "Tell me more about that feeling that you're having." Um, and I think that there's more layers to Kelly than I thought that there was back then. That would
Hmm.
probably be the most surprising. I'd say the most surprising hardship of this business that caught me off guard was producing to me was black and white. It is a these are the underwriting guidelines. It is clear. It is black and white. Your client will approve here, your client won't approve here. And growing in leadership is a gray area for me. And I like black and white. So gray is hard for me. And it's hard to learn how different people work and how their brains work, and that not every brain works like my brain, and learning how to handle that and talk to different people in certain ways, right? Like learning that my text messages may come across really blunt. And so certain people, you'll get a voice memo from me instead because I know that I can probably put a happier tone on it than I would in a text message. So surprised, I think I was surprised of how hard growing in leadership was.
Mm.
But I also, I think, was surprised that I would have to grow in leadership because I didn't come in this business expecting to grow an agency. I told Jamie I didn't want to recruit. I wanted to make $5,000 a month and leave me alone.
What changed that you wanted to build?
Competing with you.
Having that person does do that. It does. It does light that little bit of a fire.
I think I saw what it could do. It could do more. It then wasn't just on me. And I only have so many hours in a day. I only have so many hands, and recruiting would help solve that, right? Like my goal was $5,000 a month when I came here, but within a few months of seeing what was possible here, it's not it's easy then to adjust your expectations. Like, oh, I wanted 5,000, but that person's making 20, and there's no difference between me and that person. Like, and they're making 20,000. Like, okay. Like, and then like the the line just kept increasing of like, oh, well, that person makes this much money and they're doing this and their agency's this side. Okay, like it just kept moving. It just keeps moving and going as I'm like, okay, there's still no difference between me and that person except more people. Okay, so how do I get more people here? And I felt like just once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you
Yeah,
start getting overrides and you get that feeling, you can't unfeel that feeling.
and I think for so many people, it does kind of just grow up a ladder like that. When you're brand new here, it's hard to imagine $50,000 in a month. You're wrapping your mind around five. That seems reasonable. That seems like something you could do. But then when you go get five and you start seeing that 10's possible, you're like, oh, let me go for 10. And then once you're at 10, you're like, all right, I'm not that much different than the people doing 20. And it literally just starts to come up. I don't know very many people that are like, I'm coming here, it's 50 grand, it's 100 grand a month. Like for so many people, it's hard to wrap your mind around that. But you're like, yeah, all right, let me start here. And then just little by little, we'll edge up that thing.
Or like my favorite thing to do now is we preach time freedom, right? I don't think you and I are there yet. We're not at time freedom yet. We are at time choice. That's my favorite thing. That's my
That's a good
favorite
way to
thing
put
to
it.
say. Like we have time choice. We get to choose when we clock our hours. Jim and I very much work this business full time, right? But we have the time choice of when we get to work this business. But my favorite thing is my choice of maybe like I typically work a lot of Saturdays, but let's say I don't work a Saturday. me and the family's out, my favorite thing is like I remember we went to like a mall one day. We go to get in the car at the end of the day, and
Thank you.
I looked at I looked at Jake and I said, "Well, I was with you all day. We had some drinks. We went out to dinner, and we made like 3 grand today." So, like I answered a few text messages, but we made like I calculated like the overrides in my head of everyone. I'm like, we made about 3 grand. Like that wasn't a bad day. I didn't have to work today, except answer a few text messages, and that is just such a fun feeling. And then as I've grown in my leadership here too, knowing what those people are putting in, like I may have put 3 grand in my bank account, but those people have put more money in their bank account, and that's a fun feeling.
Yeah, that's really cool. Going back to the very beginning again on the phone, just because we have so many new people here, I remember the biggest first obstacle I had was getting people to show up to the appointments. Like I would
Mhm.
setting appointments and then people weren't showing. And people experience different layers of this. Like sometimes they have trouble just bypassing the resistance and setting the appointment. Other times they're not showing up. Other times they're showing up but not selling. Other times they're selling but they're not issuing because the underwriting wasn't done well. Where was all of that smooth for you? From my perspective, it seemed smooth. Where in that frame did you struggle the most?
I think I struggled with it all. I
Okay.
struggled with it all. But I remember I remember going through like guys, I was a dork. I sacrificed not having watching my shows, not having scroll time on social media. What I was scrolling at night was agent guides because SFG quotes wasn't a thing when I started, right? It was snowing, I was barefoot, and I was walking up the hill both ways, okay? SFG wasn't a thing for us back then. And so I remember having to read agent guides because I wanted to get better at what questions to ask people. And Symmetry Financial Group Facebook page, I would scroll through that to see what people were saying, to see what the comments were, because there was a trend, right? Our business is amazing. We all help each other here, right? And so seeing what people and comments were making and then seeing what resources were there for me to go listen to. So listening to someone be like, here's a SoundCloud link on Critical Period and be like, oh, okay, let me listen to that. Let me listen to this, seeing what people were saying. And now that we have other groups as well, like the Switchboard community page, like, man, I still scroll through that every night of seeing what people post of like, how would you handle this? And I'm like, oh, how would they handle this? And like getting curious of like, how would they handle this? And scrolling through the comments and seeing what different people are saying and what resonates with me and my voice of how I can adapt that into my sales skill. But knowing that a sales skill can be learned, it can be adapted. And so like raising my hand and asking for help, but also helping myself at the same way. Like, I mean, I still ask Jamie questions. Our philosophy is massive action and constant correction. You got to make sure that someone's helping you steer the ship. And so Jamie would be like, "Oh, that objection, try this." And I would have a list. I remember having a list on a piece of paper of the common objections and writing down things that I could say so that way when I was on the phone and it wasn't fluid to me yet that I could glance up. Like right now, sitting right there, voicemails are a new thing for us, right? Like there's been a common like start leaving voicemails. And Amanda McGrew was like, I got this voicemail from Jeremy Miner. And so I wrote it down and it's sitting up there on my board right now. So when I leave a voicemail, I can glance up and just read off of it. Like just adapting and taking resources and plugging it into it.
One of the things you're really good at is helping people line up their work ethic and their goals. Because we run into a lot of people that want big things, but we look at the effort. For you, that was never an issue. You wanted big things and you came in and did big things. How do you help people catch the vision that doing the big things is worth it? It's worth like there's no way you're getting around the sacrifice. If you're going to do things, you're going to have to sacrifice. How do you help people get to a place where their work ethic and what they're putting into the machine is matching what they want to get out of it?
don't know if you can ever, you can't want it more than they want it for themselves, right? Like, and that can be a hard thing. But I'd say I've always had the clearest kind, which is can be Kelly's best trait and worst trait at the same time. But just like you're not going to get there with 3 appointments. Like just clear, like metrics are one of my favorite things about this business because you can walk it back, right? Like I had an agent that's like, what's your non-negotiable income? Right? So take that and you can feel free to work with your mentor on that. What's your non-negotiable? Like, I need the lights on. This is how much money I need to make here. And then work that backwards because everything is metrics in this business with some tweaking. Like your metrics may be a little bit different than the standard and tweak it accordingly. But if you had a non-negotiable of $10,000 in your bank account, okay, well, we know that that APV, I'm going to throw out some random numbers. We know that that APV is like 15,000 to bring home 10,000. Well, we know that currently your issue rate is 75%. So we know that you need to submit 20,000 APV in order to hit your non-negotiable of 10,000 income, right? And then work that backwards, right, Jim? The standard apps is 1,000 APV. Okay, that's 20 apps. We'll break that down into 4 weeks. Well, 4 weeks, 20 apps, that's 5 apps a week. Okay. The standard is going to be that we have a 50% show ratio and you need 5 apps. Okay. So we at least need, 10 appointments booked to have 5 sits. Okay. But then that's 5 sits. You're expecting to close every one of them. The standard is a 30% close ratio. Okay. So now we need, 20 appointments sit to sell this, to sell that, and working it backwards. So taking the metrics that are laid out clearly for us of dial sits, appointments, issue rates, and working that backwards and knowing that that's what you have to hit. And if you have that metric in front of you, it's a non-negotiable of this is your income or your goal to hit, then you're gonna do what it needs to be done to hit it. If you need to keep the lights on in your house, you're gonna figure it out.
What's the biggest issue you're seeing right now? Dividing line between new agents getting it and new agents not getting it. What are you seeing right now is the biggest thing?
Activity. People will be like, man, I'm really bad at closing. I'm so bad at closing. I'm like, cool. How many sits have you had this week? 3. Well, you're giving yourself 3 at-bats, like 3 at-bats to tweak something, to work at something. Like that's not enough tangible things to work on a sales skill. Like imagine if you went to go, like what's something that you could go learn? I don't know. Imagine if you needed to learn how to hit a ball and you went and you swung 3 times a week. Like, do you think you're gonna learn how to hit a ball or do a cartwheel if you tried 3 times a week? Like you gotta get the sample sizes up to tweak, to know what's working, to really know what your deficits are. And I think it's our agency, the whole Susie agency, grew very quickly. I think we have a lot of people, we have a lot of happy horses in our field. But it's not normal here in Symmetry. And if you look outside of Symmetry, what the action looks like, it's much different. Like we are like, get 300 dials. We're like over here in the Martinez agency that's slaying it on APV for Ryder. They're like, do 1,000 dials. You're going to have 20 appointments booked no matter what. And it's that philosophy of like, you're going to go get it done. If you want it done, you'll go get it done. If you want that APV.
And you're talking about the Martinez agency, and just plug your Pogue call on Friday because you're going to interview Joe on Friday.
No big deal. I'll have Martinez on Friday. Be there. It'll be awesome. It'll be fine. But yeah, like they're preaching 1,000 dial weeks. Every week, 1,000 dials. Imagine if you dialed 1,000 dials. Imagine if it's like going for a workout and you're like, I have this workout that I need to do, and it's up to you of how long you want that to last. Do you want like I used to do CrossFit, do you want this workout to last 3 hours, or do you want to get it done in 30 minutes and just stop dragging your feet, just rip the Band-Aid and get it done? And man, you will feel so much better about yourself if you just do it. Like, versus sitting there beating yourself up for 3 hours, procrastinating on it, versus just getting it done. And then before you know it, 1,000 dials is done.
Yeah, man, I tell people like the learning curve, you can get it done in a month or you can still be here in a year and you're still not through it yet, but you're not
Yeah,
going to
I
have
have
fun
I have
until you're
people that
through
have
it.
been here with me since the beginning and they're still in the learning curve. I'm like, it's up to you. Like you're coming and going and coming and going, or you can just rip the Band-Aid and commit to it. Be I promise you, if you're obsessed with this business like Jim and I are, like it will pay dividends, immense dividends.
Last question for you. Um, what are you excited about now?
Um, I'm excited that my husband gets to retire in 1 year. And I get to give him the gift of he gets to do whatever he wants. Like, how cool is that? How cool is that to
Cool.
be like he wants to do this business with me, but it's not a you have to do it. It is not a you have to have a job. Like you just served the country for 20 years and permission granted to do whatever you want to do. You can do this business if you want. You can be a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad if you want to. You can pick up knitting. I don't care. Like I don't care. Like, we're fine. We're good. Like how much fun is that to give that feeling? So that's what I'm most excited about.
That is really worth being excited about. I love that so much. Um, Guys, can you go into the comments and let Kelly know that she made an impact here? We bring people on these calls, and you guys know this, that she doesn't give up her time arbitrarily to just come talk for an hour. Kelly doesn't even like to talk this long. Like this is stretching her to be on a
I
call to talk.
panicked. I saw you were done at leaderboards at like 15 after. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to talk.
She was hoping we'd go 30, 35 minutes and
Take
there
your
wouldn't be
time.
much time at the end. But she does this because she wants to believe that it's not just about the 30 or 40 minutes she talked tonight, but it's about inspiring even just one of you to get off your butt, rip off the Band-Aid, and go do the freaking work so that it's going to be an impact 3 months, 6 months, 6 years from now because she gave her time on this call. That's why she does it. So if you can leave her some love in the comments, and Kelly, take just a minute and scroll those comments. We love you. We appreciate you. You are so much the heart, the driver, the motor behind this machine, and you have been for so long. If beating me was a bit of competition for you, for me, it was not getting beat by you was a driver for me. So from almost the very beginning, you were a motor that drove the machine in a lot of ways. And I'm so grateful for your grit and your
And
ability to
you
not ask.
know yourself to lead yourself. Once you have the opportunity to tap into that competition vibe, like, well, it's not gonna let you beat me to the top.
No, and I didn't. You were gonna win, and you absolutely did, and it was awesome. All right. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for your time. Guys, thank you all for tuning in. This will be up on YouTube tomorrow. Let's go slay the rest of this week. Bye,
All
y'all.
right. Bye, guys.